Good afternoon, I'm Nikki Stimpson at GBTA Europe Conference here in Brussels, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Kate Fitzpatrick, who is the Regional Security Director for EMEA at World Travel Protection. Kate,
Hi,
so lovely to meet you, and welcome to the GBTA broadcast studio.
It's great, thank you.
You've got an exciting time coming up. I know you're heavily involved because many of our listeners and viewers today will be thinking about the World Cup in Qatar, and I know you've got some great advice to share. So can you share some of that advice with our listeners
Of course.
and viewers today?
Of course, I'd love to. Yeah.
So what do people need to watch out for if they're going to Qatar for the World Cup?
Okay, so they're staying out of trouble. No, stop. No. Okay, crime rate is very low.
Yes.
Statistically, crime rate is very low. It's a very safe country to travel to. If you look at a comparison to our big European cities where you see pickpockets, scammers, lower end theft, this is really rare in Qatar. And that's possibly due to the punishments, the severe punishments that they put out for those. However, what we need to look at from a traveller's perspective is what is defined as a crime in Qatar, because it's very different to what the Western world sees.
Absolutely, yes.
So things such as dress code, it's Islamic law, you've got to have your knees and your shoulders covered. That's a sign of respect. So whether you're in the public, that should be only closed doors is that allowed. So if you're in the public domain, whether it's a shopping mall, whether it's a hotel, even though hotels have got some exceptions, I might add, but if you're in the public domain, restaurants, malls, high streets, you need to cover up.
Okay.
Alcohol, no, in terms of Islamic law, but obviously goes in conjunction with drinking culture. It is forbidden to drink, buy, purchase, have in public any alcohol. Obviously, we've heard there's certain leniencies that are going to be given for the World Cup, but in terms of sort of crime, it can be associated as a crime. If you're seen drinking in public, if you're seen buying it, if you're seen on the street holding it, there's likely going to be some consequences for that.
Yeah. So make sure you're very selective in the venues.
For sure. I mean, on that, just a point to note, which is really interesting, is that you've got the fan zones, which we know about. So these are going to be the allocated areas that you can drink in before the game.
Okay.
During the game, no, they're going to stop the alcohol sale, and then after the game in the fan zone for a couple of hours. So hopefully you've got the atmosphere, you can still have fun, but they're limiting to how it's sort of controlled. So before the game, a couple; during the game, no; after the game, 3 or 4 hours, where you can drink in the area. Which is, don't get me wrong, you've still got to be aware of your behaviour, but it's still going to be sort of like that kind of fan zone with the big screens and that atmosphere. But you know, the swearing, if you're drunk and you're loud and leery, it's going to be frowned upon. And that could be seen as a crime. So we just need to be aware that what they define as a crime is what necessarily you might not think of from Europe. So just be aware of what they respect religiously.
So just need to be mindful of your behaviour at all times. So what are the main things to watch out for to make sure you do stay out of trouble? So we've talked about the alcohol a little bit, we've talked about the dress code. Anything else that... To
me, it's research everything before you go. Just make sure you're aware of where you're going to and what the rules are stating. Follow it to the latter. As we've just said, there's some leniency given, and we've seen it all over the public media. There's literature from social media, there's government. We don't know 100% yet, and also one police officer is maybe seeing something different to another, so it's perspective. So in my opinion, the way to stay safe is don't engage, don't get in trouble, don't get caught swearing, don't have that alcohol in your hand. Try and follow the rules to the latter, because even though there's some leniency, as they're saying, we don't know what that looks like. It's not a given, and it's kind of like a different perception from one police officer to another.
Absolutely.
So let's be safe, let's be secure, and just follow the rules to the latter. Again, the drugs, just stay away from drugs. Cannabis, cocaine, even prescription, whatever, stay away from it. I've read a lot of literature recently on if you're even in the vicinity of somebody who's taken drugs or has drugs upon them, whether it be Class A, Class B, Class C, quite low level, you will be treated the same as the person who's got them on him, because you're seen as a conspiracy inside that thing. So you need to just stay away completely, zero tolerance, don't go near it, don't get involved with it. The punishment for drugs in Qatar is severe, and it could be long imprisonment, a lot of sentences. So again, follow the rules to the latter, don't go near it, but still have your fun, don't engage in any drugs.
Okay. It's good to know. So are there any unusual things that travellers visiting Qatar may not have thought of?
Yeah, there's a couple actually. Again, with the Western world, we're very used to the freedom of speech, and we use social media platforms nowadays to vocalise that. So things like your Twitters and an opinion, it could be politically motivated, it could be something against the royal family. It could be anything, but it's my advice on this one: stay clear away. There was an article a few weeks back that somebody had left a negative report on a TripAdvisor regarding a bad restaurant review, and it didn't go down very well. So your behaviour in Qatar is not just about how you are physically, but online. The selfies that everyone's used to taking in a fun environment. If you've got a low top on, or is it provocative? That could be seen as fornication, which is a criminal offence. So we need to be aware of how we're acting on social media, not just publicly and in front of people, but exactly on social media. If you put something political on, it's highly likely that there's going to be some repercussions on that. The royal family, very, very well sought after over there. They're very well thought of. If you defamate them, any slander, I'm sure there's going to be repercussions. So just do not engage in social media in that environment. Don't, just stay away. Another thing to be aware of is medication. Again, we can move freely across the borders in Europe with over-the-counter pills, even like amoxicillin, antibiotics, and other prescription drugs. Anything prescription or controlled drug in Qatar, wow, you'd be stopped at the border. Keep it in the branded packets. Advisory, get your doctor, GP to get a letter to back that up. So this is what we've got, this is what it needs, in the milligram, the brand, because you've got to prove that at the border. If you're at the border and you've got, bear in mind there's 1.2 million influx in on this event, you could be stopped at the border, you're going to be held, you're going to be detained until they find out what that is. Keep it in the original branding, keep it in the packet, get your doctor's note, and that will help you get through securely. But even things like your paracetamol could be questionable, so just be aware of what you're carrying. Keep it all in the original containers with the original packets separately, and produce it if you're asked.
Okay,
that's
good to know. Some really good insights there. So I think that the message that I'm getting is better to be safe than sorry, and definitely have your wits about you.
One last thing, as a female, do not offer your hand to be shaken, because it's not offensive. It's a respect thing, so it's likely you wouldn't get shaken back. Okay. So don't be offended, it's just the way it is.
Well, thank you so much. I've learned lots this afternoon.
No, it's been lovely, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, this is Nikki Stimpson from the GBTA Europe Conference here in Brussels. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.